So, hello everyone. Today I am going to be interviewing Michael Joscelyne, and he is our Vice President of the Regency chapter. And I can't tell you how excited I am to meet him, because he's taken on that role and he's doing a great job, and he's a mortgage advisor, and I'm absolutely sure going to provide us with fantastic information about how we can make and save money. And I'm in the lovely Dorchester. We've just had our BNI Regency morning meeting, which is fantastic, and I'm about to meet him now, so let's go and meet Michael. So, hello everybody, and today I have Mr. Michael Joscelyne in the day in the life of. So, Michael, thank you very much. It's lovely to meet you. I really appreciate you taking the time. Now, it's a bit like getting involved in BNI royalty here with this chap, because not only is he a fantastic mortgage advisor, had his own business, works for Kaplan and Kaplan, which has a rich history of BNI experience with Sam, of course, and he's our new Regency Vice President, which means he's very important. He does a lot of things, so it'll be really interesting to sort of understand what motivated him to do something so challenging.
Really bigging me up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? Anyway, so thank you very much for meeting me today, Michael. And there's a few questions just to find out a little bit about you and your business and why everything, what makes you tick. So the first question I have for you is, why did you start doing business for yourself? Tell me the story.
Yeah, good question. It's a mixture of things, really. It's something I've always wanted to build towards. Yeah. And the timing was just perfect. So in October, we had lockdown COVID. That sped things up for a lot of people, I think. Yeah. But it put me in a position where I was put at risk of redundancy within the company I work for. Yeah. So it just sped along my plans of then giving it a go all on my own.
So you were working with a company that did mortgage advice and stuff like that. Yeah. And so to take that leap, what were the things that you were going through your head?
Well, if you go through years of working for corporate companies, there's pretty much guaranteed stability of finances. Yeah. So that was quite a scary thing. Yeah. But on the flip side of that, I mean, I was in the process of starting a young family, so that was a really key point for me. I was working very long hours with the company I worked for. Thoroughly enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but having children in that equation, it just wouldn't have worked. I can imagine. It would have been a massive struggle.
How old are your children now?
1 and 3.
Right.
So yeah, pretty much started self-employed, had my first child on the same month. So absolutely nuts.
Did you move house as well?
No, luckily we'd already done that bit. But yeah, it was a test in a few years. But I wouldn't change anything for the world, and I've got that flexibility of choosing my hours to a degree. Yeah. So it means that with having children, if there's a day or an afternoon, I just want to enjoy that time where they're young, because they're only going to be young once. And it's just a really good opportunity to be able to go, right, actually, this part of my day I'm just going to move to the evening, and I can have a nice afternoon with my children, my family. So
it makes a big difference, doesn't it? It's that balance of quality of life, work, family. It's a tough one. Everyone's trying to create that balance. And, I remember you saying in your first year going on your own, it was something that, you really sort of got some momentum. Yeah. And you found that, sometimes you neglect the momentum with the pipeline behind. And I remember you talking a bit about that. Tell us a little bit about those challenges.
So I had a fantastic business relationship back then. So I was with a different company then. Yeah. And I predominantly went into self-employed as an insurance advisor, first and foremost. So we worked together, and I dealt with the insurance side of things. But yeah, I think one of the key things I learned very, very quickly of being self-employed is, if you purely just work on the existing book of clients and what you need to do to support them, and then neglect the new business, that neglect will mean that tomorrow there will be no new business for you to work on, and your business will then drop off a cliff. So you need to be really switched on to understand that there are different pots that you need to allocate your time to. Because if you just purely work on keeping that service tip top for your existing business, which, don't get me wrong, is very, very important. Yeah, but if you just do that, then there's not going to be a new customer potentially for tomorrow. You're only working on today. So that was a valuable lesson I learned very quickly.
Did you employ any different tactics or do anything differently once you recognised that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most simple thing you can do is, any successful business person will have a to-do list. I don't think you need to get more complicated than having to-do lists, but having a new business or a new opportunity or a growth bit list, whatever you want to call it, as well as an existing customer list. I think it's very, very important, because if you don't work on both, then everything will fall short very, very quickly, and then you'll be like, oh, where's tomorrow's customer going to come from, or how am I going to pay my mortgage next month? And anyone who's self-employed, they want to see that continuous growth. But if you don't give that growth the time it deserves, and you just work on today, then things will drop off very, very quickly.
This is my first year, not just being BNI, but putting a new business idea together. So I joined you guys back in April, starting out at the beginning of my journey. So I know, and I'm 9 months down the line, and it's tough, because you want to prove concept. You take on a load of clients, you probably charge them a little bit less because you want the business, and then you want to deliver them really great service. At the same time, you're looking over your shoulder where the next one's coming from, and it's tight. But you've got to have that inner belief, that motivation. And one thing that's always struck me about you is that you're like someone that look like they could. You don't look like you could walk through walls, but you do it in a way where it's a challenge is a challenge to be relished. So for going from being that insurance person to where you are now, I remember your transition. It felt a little bit like that from an outsider's point of view. Tell me a bit more.
I still think I've got a long way to go, that's for sure. But I don't know, I think sometimes I look like everything's completely controlled on the outside, but I'll be crying like a little boy on the inside,
Well, you're like the swan that looks graceful underneath.
Good poker face maybe, I don't know, but
game face,
absolutely. At the end of the day, I think there's been, we've gone through kind of my personal history and a few things that have happened, and there are things that have happened, big mistakes that perhaps I could have avoided, but with anything that happens or goes wrong, there's always opportunity within that to learn, to make sure that's not something that goes wrong in the future.
But if you don't make a mistake, it's not something to learn from, is it?
No.
So you got to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to be honest with yourself and go, could have done that differently. If you don't learn from those, or you just point the finger at other people and go, well, I don't know why that happened, then you're never going to grow. And I think that's another area of kind of growth. You've got the growth of business and the money you're earning, but if you don't kind of look inwards and reflect a little bit,
your own personal development,
if you go on YouTube and you see all these like cliche motivational videos, there's some really key things to take out of it, and I think one of them is that you need to be able to look back and just kind of review what you've done, what's worked well, what can work better, and what things just completely cut out of your kind of day-to-day.
Is there anyone that you like to listen to from a podcast perspective, or a guru that you look up to, or maybe not, maybe just a person that you just enjoy, what their observations are?
Well, so my background's in sales, and I used to listen to all of those videos and think, okay, that's good, that's not good, that's all right. Then I realised that sometimes I was just watching them for the sake of watching them, thinking in my head, I definitely should watch that because I'm probably going to get a message out of it. And then I get very confused in that time. Whereas actually it can be, there's a soft play cafe near me, and they've got like a plaque above it, and all of a sudden it will say, what did it say? It said, sometimes it's not about waiting for the storm to pass, but learning how to dance in the rain. And like little things like that, I'll be like, good God, okay, that makes complete sense to me. And it's the same, having young children. I think sometimes people say, those first 6 months, they're really hard, but don't worry, when they're older, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I think it's very easy in those kind of situations for people to think, I'll just get through these 6 months, instead of going, well, actually, let's just enjoy the moment. Yes, it's stressful, but it's just
I think it's the other way around. They're beautiful, they're little, they're cute, they do stupid things, they're learning, you see them go leaps and bounds. Then they turn into sweaty, smelly teenagers and don't give a monkeys and are rude to you, and really you're an embarrassment. So
Yeah.
I have no idea who gave you that advice, but I would love my daughter to be like that.
Yeah, I know. And I hear the same from people looking backwards as well. But I think in the moment you get a little bit like, oh, I just want this. But I bring up my children quite often on this, but I think they're the kind of key things I
They're a major motivator.
So there's no one, yeah, absolutely. There's no one I particularly will go to. I mean, I could say now, like cliche, oh, it's my children that have taught me everything I know.
Yeah.
And to a degree, that's true. But I kind of take snippets out of the day to day.
Oh, of course you do, yeah. I used to always say, I love this statement, the enemy of great is good. Because if you're really good at something, then you don't aspire to be great. It's like that pride comes before a fall. You don't feel the need to do that. But if you really want to achieve your dreams, you've got to push the boundaries and to be constructively critical of yourself and all the things that you do. As you say, look back. You're not going to be and achieve or even touch greatness, and what would it be? So that's comes from an athletic perspective, looking at performance. Yeah. So I'm never really satisfied with the necessarily result that you get, even if it's good. Could be great. Yeah. So then you explore it even more.
Yeah.
And it's that thirst and hunger, and you seem to have that. You might say from sales background, but moving on to Michael now, as moving out of insurance, deciding to go as a partner into a firm, into mortgage and so on. Tell me a little bit more about what you've learned in that period of time to now. Where have you journeyed? In terms of your own confidence and the types of things that you are doing. Are you more comfortable with it, or? Yeah,
no, definitely. I think you kind of learn that with everything you do in a day, there's a certain amount of time that should be allocated to it. So I think to be efficient in business, you need to really fully understand kind of your day from start to finish. If you've got a list and then instantly you go, right, I need to get through this list today, you've not really kind of delved into understanding that allocation of time, you'll get to like 6 o'clock and you go, oh wow, I'm not even halfway through the list, I'm going to have to do it late tonight. Whereas if you can be a bit more effective within your working week instead of just looking at that one day and go, right, okay, look, these are the things that definitely need to be done today. These things are going to take X amount of time. Let's allocate those to the next.
And it's something that you constructively do each week.
It's something I'm working on.
All right. Okay. You sit there with loads of alarms and say, stop.
I mean, sometimes you go, oh, this is definitely top number one urgent thing. And then you end up spending half a day on it, and then everything else gets neglected, which means that they become that number one urgent thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Instead of just going, right, this is the amount of time I've got, this is how much time I'm allocating to it. If it doesn't get finished, then unfortunately it's going to have to go to tomorrow. Yeah. Then you're spreading yourself out evenly across what you're meant to do, and then you get to a point where you're giving the same amount of effort and service to each person that you deal with, which then in return will then just make you a much better business person, because you're being smarter with the list you've got instead of just going right top to bottom, let's get it done. It doesn't work that way.
I guess there's an argument for both, but what I've heard about you, and I have not used you or given you a referral, but what I've heard about you is that you invest your time in someone whether you get the business or not, because you want them to walk away with an experience that goes, my God, this guy, he goes over and above. And that's very clear from the time that I've known you. So, even if you don't make a sale today, that person will remember you because they remember the fact that you invested the time. So that's where the challenge, the balance is, Yeah, how much time do I invest? But, if someone comes to you for advice and you give them the best advice, even if they don't use you and they use someone else and they realise, God, that guy had the best advice, what am I doing? It's lifelong, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my observation, of what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I really like helping people.
Yeah.
And it's what I get out of it. That's why I enjoy doing the mortgage side. Don't get me wrong, the insurance side is important. It's something that they need. Yeah. Whereas with mortgages, it's more about how they want to kind of grow themselves and get to that next step. And it's something that people really need help and support with and holding hands, just to make sure that process is as positive and exciting as it should be. Someone comes to me for their first meeting, there's a smile on their face.
It's exciting, yeah.
But buying a property can be a stressful thing for a lot of people, and I try and make sure that smile on their face stays there as long as possible, so that it's
something to look forward to. It's like buying your business for the first time.
Absolutely, it's never too early to start that. In fact, I always say to people, if you've already started saving money, you're speaking to someone a bit too late, because a lot of those people they don't have a clear goal, a clear amount of money they need to save, what kind of property they can afford to buy, or they may be on a scale of stepping up in salary per year. It might be on an apprenticeship, or they might get commission or bonuses. And if you don't really understand kind of what your time within that workplace could mean for you on the property ladder, then you're kind of missing a trick there. And you should just if you're in a point where you're going, right, start a new job, back in 2 years' time, I'd love to buy a property, that is when you need to speak to someone, because they can give you a very clear path as to how to do that.
So what would be the common mistakes, misgivings of people thinking about a property and starting on that process? You know, you probably, I'm too young, I'm not earning enough money, or I need to have a deposit. That's what you hear a lot. Tell me more about what you think the myths are.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago I would have said that people felt that 10 grand saving was like a magic number and they'd just work on that. But I think without speaking to someone who's a professional, then you're missing out on understanding all the different options that are out there. Now, I know a few people are lucky enough to have parents that really want to help and support. And if you don't understand what mortgage options are out there to take advantage of that support, then again, you could be getting into a property a lot sooner than you think.
Okay, so what sort? Tell us a little bit more about, how has the market changed in the last 5-10 years in terms of what options and opportunities that youngsters have, for example?
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's a fair question. So a few years back, we had a Help to Buy scheme, which was done by the government, where they would offer an equity of 20% towards the property as a first-time buyer. That got taken away, and I think a few people had a few question marks as to, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? So I don't think the market's necessarily changed too much, but I think that there are certainly other options that people aren't aware of. So first one could be like guarantor mortgages, where your parents can help and support you. Another one is what we call a joint borrower sole proprietor. So your parents wouldn't have part ownership of the property, but they could use their income to help boost your affordability to then support you to get in the property you're looking for. And there's multiple different things like that. Some of the specialist lenders will have these little quirky different products that are on offer. But if you just went and walked into a high street bank, then it's very unlikely they're going to have all of those different options available. You've got to speak to someone that's got access to everywhere to be able to understand what options are available.
Proper broker, looks at all of the different market. So a businessman starts his business, a couple of years, not got 2 years of accounts, just started out, doing reasonably well, wants to buy a property. How do I get the money? Is there any advice that you would give someone?
Definitely. So it's two things really. One, if you're just starting a business, there are different ways that you can get into a property sooner. I think a lot of people think, I need 2 years worth of books, I better wait until then. It's not necessarily the case. In a lot of scenarios that it could be. However, there are different things you can do. I mean, I did a mortgage recently where we were able to use a letter from the accountant that showed clear projections as to how they were going to get to the numbers that they needed.
Oh, right, okay. So you're using your accountant to help you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And because that accountant's got backing through certain watch bodies, or whatever you want to call them, then the lender will then take that and use that towards affordability to get that mortgage offer approved.
I mean, that's brilliant.
Another thing is that I think a lot of people in limited companies, so directors, are under the impression that they need to get as much into salary and dividends as possible, but it's not necessarily the case. And I've had people come to me and go, oh, someone told me I need to do this, spent thousands upon thousands on income tax, which wasn't necessary. For me to have an awkward conversation and say, well, actually, I could have kept it in the business. We could have used that net profit towards your affordability as well as your salary. And actually, net profit is going to trump everything else because it's kind of your top end figures.
Yeah.
And could have done it that way, and then you wouldn't have necessarily have had to spend so much on
loads of
income
tax.
tax, you know. So again, that's why I
So
kind of reiterate that point.
Hey
It's
guys,
never too
in
early.
the description below here, there'll be links to Michael's contact details. So if there's anything that's of interest that you've heard here, then please do reach out to him. It sounds like you could save some business owners quite a serious amount of money. But that's fascinating. And what about those people who do that buy to let and who are looking at, I've got some money now, or I've sold my business or in retirement, you know, how am I going to mobilise that cash? Because I guess that's another part of the market for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of buy to let, that works very different than residential mortgages. So as long as we can show that the rental income for that property is going to cover the mortgage payments, then in that kind of scenario, a lot of the time there are mortgage lenders that will be happy to take on that mortgage on the merit that it's covering itself with the income, almost like its own little business to an extent. And there's so many different things you can do with buy to let. You can take it for a limited company, you can do it in your own personal name, and the reason you would choose one or the other is dependent on one, what you're looking to do in the future. Do you want a portfolio of properties? Then you probably think, well, actually option B is probably my best bet. But if it's your only income, then you might go, well, actually, I was putting my own name because I'm not going to get a massive hit on income tax. And do it that way. But
are there any rules of thumb that someone who is doing a buy-to-let mortgage should always focus on? Like, for example, I rent a flat, and you know, every year they're trying to put it up, and I hear this excuse, you know, the interest rates have gone up. And I'm thinking, well, surely you can find a fixed rate, you know, and how that is, you know, what are the things that, you know, as someone who's got a buy-to-let can do to actually, you know, rework their financing, I think is that way to put it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, one thing that at the end of the day with buy-to-lets, a lot of landlords are going to always look at what's going on in the market to make sure they're getting that best rate, but there are also landlords that are very fair to their tenants and they're always going to do the right thing. In terms of different interest rates that are out there, I mean, if the market is up, the market is up. There's not too much you can do about it. But what I do find is that when you've got a buy-to-let, there are some people out there, because you've got a rental amount coming in, it's all to one side, kind of left it to its own devices. There's some people that might not be as perhaps switched on with the rate they're having at the time. If they're on a fixed rate and then they go on to the lender's, what we call standard variable rate, some people will leave it like that and just go, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine, until it really goes up and they, oh, crikey. So I think, one, you need to be really proactive and make sure that if you come into the end of a product, speak to someone and then just move it straight over, because it's very, very simple with buy-to-let properties majority of the time. But also by speaking to a professional instead of just staying with that one lender. And again, I see this with landlords quite often. They'll always stay with that one bank or building society or
a loyalty
company.
thing. I'm a loyalty, will I get a better advantage of it?
Yeah, maybe, or it's just, well, simple, I'll just do it with them. But a lot of the time, they won't be looking at the whole market just to see what they can do to save as much money as possible. So again, always speaking to a mortgage advisor, even if you think it's the most simple, straightforward mortgage, speak to someone just to check whether you could save.
You get the other options, don't you? And it provides you with more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, business and your own personal life is that, you know, loyalty's great, and having loyalty with a bank or a lender is fine, but it's like energy companies are all got, you know, why don't you go and actually you look at money saving supermarket or money saving guides, and you know, the relevant people out there today, they're always saying, you know, go out there, shop about, and go to someone who's sat there and he's read all the catalogues, they know all the offers, they know all the ins and outs of it, and it can make a huge difference to you paying off your debt years before they're due.
Absolutely.
And that's,
if you make a £50 saving, so if you've got a 5-year fixed rate, £50 saving, that's over $2,500 difference over a 5-year period. That's a huge amount of money that you could just be wasting by not actually getting someone to have a quick look at it for you.
So it's not like, it's not necessary to go and think, oh, I've got to stop what I'm doing. It's just like realigning yourself, getting a new suit cut. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah. Stay sharp.
what it is, isn't it? You know. So what would be your takeaways to anybody that currently have a mortgage for their own personal situation, or a buy-to-let, or or thinking about going onto the property market, what would be your takeaways, your rules of thumb? You should do this, you should do this, you should, or at least investigate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the main thing is, and I've fallen victim for this as well, is if you're buying a property or your first property, then, and buy to let, to be fair actually, is to really just have a think about where you feel your life's going to be in 5 years or 10 years. I'll give you an example. So me and my partner, we bought a 3-bed detached. We thought, this will keep us going for a while. And then, as you know, I've got 1 and a 3-year-old now. So in the space of 15 months, we had 2 kids. And all of a sudden, that 3-bed detached house, which was huge and spacious, it's not so huge and spacious anymore.
Yeah, especially as they get
dolls
bigger
and toys and balls and everything else around on the floor. All the bedrooms are taken out now. One of those was my office, not anymore. That's all gone now. So I think really understand where you feel you're going to be, because
be realistic, isn't it?
If you go and buy, I don't know, like a 1-bed studio or 2-bed flat, and you think, well, we're going to start a family, then it's probably likely that you're going to then move into or try and find a 3-bed house or 4-bed house in the near future. So I think that's really imperative to understand what journey you're looking to go on. And the same with buy-to-let properties. If you're thinking, well, actually, I want this to be an investment, I want to grow this investment, then speak to your mortgage advisor and understand kind of where you would like it to be. Do you want a portfolio of properties? If so,
of course.
Then how are you gonna achieve that based on the assets you've got? I think that's the key thing for me, is where do you want to be in the future, not just kind of where you want to be now, because then you're probably going to save yourself heaps of money, and actually you might be able to get that opportunity, that property's a few rungs up the property ladder than the one that you're originally looking at. Yeah,
and that's a really, really good point. I mean, so I'm going to swing the case the other way, and I'm going to say, what would you say to those people who had a property, they may have lost it through business?
Yeah.
I'm one of these people. Some years back, fell off the property ladder and then just never got back on it, thinking, I'll never get back on it. Are there schemes, are there ways for people who may have been on the property ladder before, fell off it for whatever reason, there was a crash, you were an employee, you had overheads that you couldn't match, and you had no other way, that was the way to go, and many other people do that. How do you then get back into having your own property again? Have you got any thoughts or advice?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people in that situation, they may have been impacted credit-wise, so there might be a few blips on their credit history. I think a lot of people, and I've had a few actually, where they've been on like an IDA, or they've had to declare bankruptcy, or those kind of things, or repossession. But what I think a lot of people don't realise is that your credit history is wiped after 6 years. Or a lot of lenders will have different criteria. They will go, well, actually, do you know what? If someone was in this situation, we will actually consider them after 2 years or 3 years. So that then you're not completely blacklisted for life. There's always going to be that opportunity. If from a money perspective you're thinking, well, actually it's going to take me a lifetime to save up 15, 20 grand, or however much you need to save, there's always the opportunity of going through shared ownership. So essentially what shared ownership is a housing association will own a percentage of your property, you own this percentage, you pay them rent for the amount they own, and you pay the mortgage for the remaining amount. And what you can do over time is you can staircase how much of that property you own, and as long as it's within the conditions of your purchase, you can essentially own 100% of that after a certain amount of time. Property's all yours. You're able to get in a lot quicker than you would have if you just got a standard mortgage, and it gives you that chance to be a homeowner.
I mean, that's a great comforting thing, And if there anyone out there listening to this that think, I can't own a home again, that isn't true. And I've also heard that if people have been through something like that, lenders look at it in a positive way, because it's almost like they know what it is to do with having money and the responsibilities associated with that, and are flexible and open. And there are lenders that want to do that, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, there are some lenders that will look on a case by case basis, so they have a bit more of a manual process. An underwriter will look at it. There are a lot of lenders actually out there that have got like a daily or a weekly meeting where they will take these cases in and they'll assess them on their own merit. Your high street lenders, fantastic, because they'll have very competitive rates. Generally speaking, will have a bit more of an automated process, but there is always going to be a lender out there for someone. which again is why it's important to speak to a mortgage advisor, because you'll just go, if you bank with Nationwide, 9 times out of 10 you'll go, all right, let's go and have a look at Nationwide, and they'll go, no, I'm really sorry. And then you assume that that's going to be the case for everyone, where it's not at all the case. No. And the other thing is that mortgage advisors, generally speaking, will offer the same rates you'll get with those lenders directly. So it's a win-win. You're getting the same deal.
Yeah, and you're getting a much bigger plethora of choices, haven't you? And that's it. The world is about choice. It's fascinating. I found that fascinating, Michael. Thank you. And educating the people that would listen to this is what you're about. It's, a lot of people have preconceptions about these things and then realise, my God, I didn't realise that was true. I can actually own my property again, or I can do it soon, or have something larger. And so, it doesn't cost anything to get some advice, does it?
No.
To sit down and say, this is where I am and this is where I want to be.
And there's one step further. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please. This is what it's about. It's about that.
So I've had a lot of examples where let's say someone's with Barclays, just as an example, and they've taken out a big loan, like a personal loan, or they've unfortunately had a few defaults, or some form of like debt management plan, and they think, well, there's no chance I'm going to be able to get a new fixed rate. But what they don't realise is a majority of the time, those lenders, if you move straight on to a new product with that lender, they won't actually do any checks, and then they'll just move you straight over.
Right.
And a lot of people that have come to me haven't realised that, and thought, well, I'm just going to have to stay on their higher standard variable rate.
I see.
And I had one example where I saved a gentleman £350 a month.
Wow, I mean that's life-changing
just
money.
Because he made
that's
an assumption.
Life-changing.
Well, yeah, he makes an assumption and you stick to it. And I think we all do it to a degree with things that we don't know, but that's why it's just go and speak to someone. I mean, a consultation or speaking to a mortgage advisor, it's free of charge. Where some of us will charge fees, but generally speaking, not until the actual mortgage is submitted. Yeah. Just going on the phone, just going.
Well, you can change someone's life. They could have a holiday next year without realising that they could.
Yeah.
So I'd implore anyone, in the link in the description below, there will be contact details to get to Michael and ask him some questions. And I would encourage anybody, regardless of what the financial status you think you are, to actually, if you want to have a home, you want to have your own property, have a conversation, because that's where it all starts with. And this leads me nicely on to BNI, really.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fledgling BNI member, and why did you become a BNI member at the beginning?
Yeah. I did a lot of networking, and I think with different networks, there have been some that are fantastic, and then there are some where I think a few of the members will just want to go along to have a nice breakfast, have a chat, and then that's it. And that can be really hard to grow certain business relationships. Whereas BNI, yes, there is a commitment. You need to make sure you're going to be 100% committed to join. But with that commitment, it's there for a reason, because everyone within that chapter is committed, and you're committed to each other. And
very much
all that can happen from that is trustful relationships where you can grow business and work together. The other thing is, I think being self-employed, it can be a bit of a lonely world.
Oh yeah, most definitely. The power teams that are actually going on here. We're at our new venue today. This is our new venue. We do face-to-face on a Friday, every Friday, and we're in the Brew House in Dorchester, and it's a lovely location. And we got it until 11 o'clock, from like 6:45 to 7, and it's a hub of where you get to introduce to loads of businesses and work together. And tell us a little bit more about the power team, because it's so powerful, that the whole nature behind it, because that puts a lot of strength to the point you want to make.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll have the big chapter meetings, which is fantastic, but with any business there are going to be key different types of business that are going to
synergize.
That's the word.
Synergize.
So for example, I'm in a property power team, so we've got somebody who deals with the commercial finance side of stuff. We've got an accountant in there. We've got a financial advisor. We're looking to bring in surveyors and conveyancers and everything else. And the idea of it is then that the people that you're most likely to work with closely on a daily basis, you're all working in what we call a power team. So then you can share business and make sure you're being as efficient and effective as possible. But then you're also, with any business, there's going to be a process from start to finish. You're kind of filling in those gaps just to make sure that a lot of those steps are dealt with in-house with people you trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which in turn is going to make that customer trusts you even more because you're passing them to someone that's going to give them the best level of service.
And that trust thing is so important. And it's not, you don't just say, oh, I'm going to be a BNI member and here's my money. You've got to go through a membership team who check that you've got, you're all right. I don't know how I'm in here, but
wasn't me.
Yeah, exactly. But you've got to fit the group, and it's not saying that it's a bit fit the group. It's making sure that we've got business people who have a bona fide business, that have a bit of respect and trust, that you can be happy to say, I've got this person for you, because there'd be nothing worse, would there, if you refer someone and they get absolutely dealt with in a just horrendous manner.
Yeah.
It's embarrassment, and the trust is great. And I'd like to add that the BNI groups that I'm involved with here has been so welcoming, and it's been so easy to build trust and to build a connection with them. That's priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on top of that as well is you can learn off each other. So why would you go through being self-employed all on your own when you can learn off of other people's mistakes and also learn off people's successes?
Yeah, of course.
Which means I look at BNI as a way of fast tracking that kind of knowledge and understanding of being in the self-employed world by sharing those conversations and experiences with other people in the chapter.
Yeah, of course, absolutely right.
And that's worth its weight in gold to me,
And what motivated you to apply for vice president on a change of leadership team?
Good question.
I mean, I don't mean that in a backhanded way, of course, but
why on earth did you do
given
that?
you change sort of like your tact a little bit from insurance to mortgages. You got a young family. Let's just add to it, shall we?
Yeah, I know.
What was
I like to suffer, I think is.
But you do a very good job of it, and in a very short space of time, you've got to get quite a lot of things under the table. So you're like, I was telling to Tracy, you're the unsung heroes, because you don't see what's going on in the background and what's involved. And it's all right for me. I can turn up. I can say, so I'm a digital doctor and I want this. Thank you very much, and then I go away, and that's it.
Yeah.
But that's not it, because I want to try and get referrals, and I'm always looking out for other things. But yours is much more in depth. Tell us a little bit more about what is the role of a vice president.
What is the role? So I guess the vice president is.
Don't guess. You should be right.
Definitely, what I do is it's just about understanding the performance of the chapter, seeing what's going well, what's not. What can we do to improve this? What can we do to stop that? Just seeing and understanding kind of the mechanics behind the scenes and what kind of things to focus on, and also giving a clear path and a drive to the chapter to continue that growth and continue to build on what's already there. The foundations, build it up and continue to do so.
I suppose a character like you who does mortgages and looks at all of these different lenders and all the different scenarios. That's similar, isn't it? In some ways. So in this short space of time, with having a look at the performance elements and the traffic light system, do you see anything that jumps out for you from in your brain that you think, oh God, we're really
what we do well?
Yeah.
I think again, it's just the relationships. You can see that there are key, like we've talked about the power teams, but I think there are key relationships that are slightly smaller than that are really. If it wasn't for BNI, these people wouldn't have met. So there's one or two. An example would be yourselves with Ellie Smeaton, photographer in the group. Fantastic relationship, and you can really see that by looking at the stats, the success that relationship is having, and you see them, and then it's my job to then go, well, guys, everyone, this is what they're doing. Imagine if you had something like that.
Yeah.
Reach out to the people in this chapter, build those relationships. There may be something that they do you have no idea about, but until you have that conversation, then you're never going to know. And then we can have more of those, So it's
you
just
can fill a broader spectrum of projects for people, can't you?
Yeah, I think it's very naive to go, we're all going to send one referral to each person every month. It's just not the way it works.
No.
There's going to be a business that will really struggle to send referral to this business. But if you can understand everyone, then you keep your ear out your ear to the floor for any kind of referrals to those people. But you will always have certain key people within that chapter that you're going to be able to do business with.
Yeah, of
But
course,
you've got
absolutely.
to build those relationships to be able to understand where those opportunities lie.
And apart from having to do quite a lot of this work now, which takes your time up, what would you say you've got out of BNI most?
That I haven't already mentioned.
Yeah.
I've mentioned quite a lot.
I mean, I noticed something in you in the last year.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, which you might not notice yourself because you live in your own skin.
Yeah, perhaps. So I'll be intrigued to see what that is.
Well, it's confidence. It's confidence. It's stature. It's your ability to put yourself across. It's just improved so much.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, that then.
But you know, I mean, sometimes you don't feel that. I mean, what do you?
Well, I mean, I'm not the youngest in the group, but there are less people younger than me than there are kind of older. It's kind of like we say. And I think when you're, I mean, you wouldn't know, would you? How it's all going. But I was going to say, sometimes it can be difficult coming into a new group of people. I mean, I've only been with BNI for 18 months, and you see people that are older, people that have been successful, been doing it for many years, some decades. You think, good God, how am I going to build a relationship with that person? But then you get to know someone, and it's no different than going to chat to someone down the pub. We're all people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is just go into a room with no assumptions, but you've also got to put yourself out there. I'm the kind of person that think, oh, no one's coming to me, instead of going, right, what can I do to go to people?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very valuable lesson. That if you're in a place, you're in there for a certain amount of time, you can either just let it pass you in and go home, or you can use that time effectively and just push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Stand with two people that are having a chat and go, oh, do you mind if I join in? And 99.9% of the time they'll be like, oh, brilliant, yeah, come in and have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I've pushed towards, is just put myself out of my comfort zone.
And it's hard to do that, you know, and you can see you have because you change. I know myself, I'm a different person to what I was in April last year, having done this, having had this experience. And for me, it's been the best monthly marketing spend I could have made. You know, there isn't anything better than that, you know.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, 130 quid a month, you know, I've paid for over and over again, really, with the time I have. And it'll be something I will renew. I love it.
Can I just, a quick point on that as well.
Yeah.
I think when we get people come in, you'll get people that will join, fantastic, have days like you did, you've seen the results from it, it's fantastic. You've done very well, Damian's done very well, just going back with it. But there are some people that will look at it and go, well, actually, that's an hour out of my day. But you've got to flip that on its head. It's not an hour out of your day, it's an hour now in your day of opportunity.
Yeah.
It's part of your working day.
Yeah.
It's not something you're taking out of something. You're not sacrificing anything here. You're only putting yourself in the room for opportunity.
I mean, if you bought an advert in a paper, you say, oh no, I don't want it in this week.
Yeah.
But you're paying for it. No, don't put the advert in this week. I might get busy.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I do a marketing spend. What's my ROI? But it doesn't seem to be. They don't seem to look at it that way, and it's crazy. I forever more. And being in the advertising and marketing area, that's what everyone wants to know. What's my pounds bringing me for everything I spend? But when it comes to networking, people look at it as an expense, as a time out, and it's like this becomes part of your working week.
Yeah.
It is a part of your working week. I'm joining a group, I'm on my own, on a computer. Now I've got a boardroom. I've got a load of specialists. I can share my challenges and, you know, I can solve solutions beyond my own personal network. So it's a no-brainer.
And now our meetings finish before 9 o'clock, finish by 8:30, ready to go for work, get a bacon sarnie.
Fall asleep by 3 o'clock.
Happy days.
Yeah, exactly.
Down the pub.
Exactly. And if you could do something differently again in the last 18 months, you might say, Damian, I wouldn't. What would it be?
What would I do differently? Good question. Oh, I like that.
I mean, some people say, well, I don't regret anything. It's not really about regrets. It's a bit like one of the common things I've heard. I would have done it sooner.
Yeah, no, I think that's always the case, and it's really hard to be able to say, oh, if I knew. Well, I think everyone says, oh, if I knew what I knew now back then I'd be absolutely flying, which is always probably going to be the case, isn't it? I guess there are certain opportunities that I could have taken that I didn't. I don't think I gave it the time it deserved to really understand whether it was going to be an opportunity or not. And I think with that in mind as well, I think there are times where I've gone, oh, I'll do that, or oh, I won't do that, because it's how I felt at the time. Do you know what I mean? Instead of going, well, actually, is this going to benefit me? Is it going to benefit my business? Is it going to benefit my customers, my clients? And instead, I'll just be in the moment and go, oh yeah, I'll do that. You know. So I think if I could learn, the biggest kind of learning for me would be to go back and say, look, just take a second. There's no rush to make these decisions.
Yeah.
Just have a little think about whether this is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, totally.
Because I think it's very easy to make a decision on going, oh, well, I don't want to let that person down, or I feel bad, or this, that, and the other. Yeah. Instead of going, actually, is this really a sensible decision?
Take it. Go and be proactive in. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Love that. Now we're coming towards the end of it. I've got a couple of more questions for you. So one of the ones I should have asked a little bit earlier, I'm keen to know, is what would be your dream referral? You got your bread and butter referral, I guess, but your dream referral, are there any of those? Or if you wanted to tell the guys out there, the types of people that you're interested in referring to you, what would they be?
Yeah, so dream referrals for me are anyone in a business already, someone who's got access to their own clients, someone I can build a trusty relationship with, that can go, actually, this is the guy for you. And those key examples will be estate agents, conveyancers, and accountants are the main three that I'm focusing on this year. Estate agents, because they want those clients in, but they want to make sure, one, that they're going to be funding. They've got funding and they're going to be a decent person, so I can do that vetting to make sure that's the case. But two, also to give them the support, going, look, go and speak to this guy. We'll make sure that everything's in the right place. You know how much you're going to spend a month. Is it realistic? Yeah. Yes, it is. Brilliant. Well, let's go and look at these properties. Conveyancers, a really good one. I mean, majority of our relationship will be me passing business to them, but it's really important for me to make sure that everything from start to finish in that process of buying the property is with someone I know and I trust, because I know that it's going to be a really smooth process for my clients. And then accountants, we mentioned earlier with one of your questions that there's a lot of limited company directors or owners that are led astray with what to do with their income for whatever reason. And I want to be able to bolt on the side to an accountant if they've got questions around mortgages, that they come and speak to me so that I can let them know what all the lenders are doing, what they can do with their money, and just make sure we place them the right person, so they know kind of over these next year or 6 months, 2 years, whatever it is, what to do with their money, so they're being efficient to continue the growth of the company as well as buying a property.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great to hear. And the final question I have for you is, what would you say to someone who had not been a BNI member and to encourage them to come? What would be your...
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first came to BNI, I mean, I was fortunate. I already knew someone that I trusted that went to BNI, so it was a bit of an easier decision for me. Whereas if you see it pop up online, or someone says, "Oh, it is,"
or if you listen to one of these pointless conversations,
but if you just got to remember, like what I said before, people are people. Yeah. It's a group of people. Yeah. We're not going to put you in a corner and say you must become a member or anything like that. We want you to come in so you can get to know us and see the value for yourself.
Very much so.
So don't make assumptions on what people say about coming along. Make that decision for yourself. Come and see for yourself and understand kind of what opportunities lie there. Because we want you to be members, don't get me wrong. We want people in to make the chapter.
But you can just visit. You don't have to be a member to come and visit us.
So you can come along, have a nice breakfast, cup of coffee, come and see what we're all about. Yeah. And worst case scenario, you will have met new businesses.
Absolutely,
there can still be opportunity in that. Now, we do want you to become members, of course, but just come and see it for yourself.
Yeah, I would implore that. I would implore that to everyone. So look, if you want to meet me and Michael, Friday mornings, 6:45. The link is in the description where you can actually book in as a visitor. Come and join us. You're going to meet a fantastic group of local businesses stretching from Lyme Regis all the way to Bournemouth. And, you know, we're looking for new members who want to share referrals and make money with us. And one of the things also that we forget is that BNI provides you with training, support, referrals, and, you know, an opportunity to share challenges that you might have. And I can't say enough how powerful that has been for me, as it would be for any other business that's either starting out, wanting to grow. People buy off people, don't they?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the perfect place to do it.
Definitely.
Is there anything that you'd like to add or say to the audience?
Come on down.
Love that. Congratulations,
Yeah.
Michael. I'd like to thank you so much. You've been an absolute star for
It's
taking
my
the time
pleasure.
to
It's
do
been
that.
Great fun.
Again, the links are in the description below. If there's anything that Michael said about mortgages, about refinancing, about, you know, getting back on the property ladder or starting for the property ladder for the first time, I implore you, do have a conversation with this man. He will make and save you lots of money. And I'm absolutely sure if he can't do it, he'll pass you to someone who can, or in some other way be very honest. Thank you very much indeed, sir. And thank you very much indeed. And we hopefully will see you soon at one of our breakfasts on a Friday morning in Dorchester at the Brew House. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye for now.